Well, it is at the top of the hour. Good day, everybody. Thank you for joining. My name's Rob Ferguson with Ferguson Alliance, and I'm really happy to have Brandy Merrick with us today. She's going to be presenting creating a culture of excellence, how to identify gaps and being able to continue your culture into the prosperity zone. She's got an exciting presentation for you, and I know you're going to enjoy hearing it. Brandy, I'll turn the mic over to you.
Thank you, Rob, for that introduction, and thank you all for joining us today on this webinar. We hope that you're able to leave this with some pieces of valuable information that you can use to add value to your business. So let's go ahead and get started. And my computer's just going to catch up for a minute. So, culture. It's a very hot topic right now. We hear many things about the Great Resignation, difficulties hiring, shortage of labor. The list of issues plaguing businesses now seems to be growing longer each day. Because of this, it is more important than ever to think about what you, as owners and business leaders, need to be on the lookout for and ways that you can set yourself apart from your competition. And when we talk about culture and competition, it reaches far beyond the other companies making the same or similar products as you. With culture, every operating business can be your competitor. Paying attention to your people is critical. In businesses, humans are responsible for creating all experiences, from the start of a sale to the execution of a product or a project. We simply could not get a majority of what needs to be done without people. Imagine running your business without people. It's impossible. So people are not listed directly on the balance sheet under assets, but they certainly should be. And when companies look to sell their businesses or would like to get an evaluation on the value of their business, the company leadership, organizational structure, and company culture could elevate or discount your value. And for those of you that lean more towards the technical aspects of running the business, hear this. You are going to make a lot more money paying attention to the people. Paying attention to the people can also be one of the most challenging tasks for owners and leaders. In my previous career in my family's wholesale nursery, we would often say, if only it was just growing plants around here. Because when it comes down to it, as owners and managers, you truly do trade in a big majority of the actual business operational duties, and your focus becomes managing and elevating the people on your team. People are very dynamic, which means your culture will always be very dynamic. Thought processes change, expectations change, but remember your why. And remember that why is also likely why people decided to join your team. They appreciate and value the deliverable for your customer. What does that mean for business leaders? It means that culture is something that needs to be on the top of mind at all times, just like strategy or revenue growth. Now, if you're feeling stressed at the thought of all of this, know that that's a normal response. Because people and culture are so dynamic, it can be overwhelming when thinking about how to tackle it and keeping it all relevant for your management team. So today, we are here to help you. We are business advisors that are passionate about helping businesses continue to drive into what we call the prosperity zone. This is the place where you can feel your collective efforts creating value for your business, your team, your customers, and your suppliers. It's a win-win for all of the shareholders and all of the stakeholders in your organization. So I'm here today with David Schlossberg, who is a fellow advisor on our team, and Rob Ferguson. As he mentioned, he's the founder of Ferguson Alliance. All three of us have worked multiple decades in family business as executives, shareholders, and/or board members. And today we're going to be presenting what some symptoms of culture issues are, the key areas within your business to assess for culture issues, and some tips to help keep your culture top-notch. Who exactly do we work with? like we said before, we work exclusively for businesses that are privately owned by a family. Family businesses are crucial to the success of our economy. And our goal is to help those businesses live as long as they would like to. But common research tells us that 40% of family-owned businesses survive to the second generation, 12% to the third, and 3% to the fourth. We're passionate and dedicated to reversing those statistics. And here's some statistics of our own. Over the past 12 years, this is a measure of how we have been adding value to our clients. We have completed now over 135 projects. We have an average tenure of 2.1 years with a client, and collectively our clients have increased their revenue $55 million from where they were before engaging with Ferguson Alliance over those 12 years. So that equals, on average, over the past 12 years, $1 invested in Alliance fees by our clients has increased their collective business value for $9 for every one of their dollars spent. So we work with business owners and their management teams to deliver these results. And because of our drive to keep their businesses prospering, tackling the human element of your business is very important to us. So, all of that said, welcome. This is going to be our agenda for today. We are going to dive into what some of those common symptoms of culture issues may be for companies. As we go through them, we are going to invite you to participate in our poll to give us some feedback on what your challenges may be in your company. We will then take a look into the Ferguson Alliance's 5 elements of culture of excellence to help you identify what gaps may exist in your organization. We will then give you a few tips to elevate those elements in your business. And then lastly, we will give you information on how to contact us, more information to explore on working with us in the future. And if you have questions, please feel free to type those in the chat. David and Rob are going to be monitoring those. If we need to address something in the moment, they're going to pop in and let me know. But if not, we'll take some time at the end to answer any of your questions. Also, please feel free to drop in the chat any tips, tricks you have to suggest to the group as it pertains to this topic. Collective group sharing is always so helpful, and we want to take advantage of any sharing opportunity we have that gathers owners and leaders together. So please feel free to do that. So we hear it all the time. Culture, culture, culture. But what is it really? Merriam-Webster defines it as the set of shared attitudes, values, goals, and practices that characterizes an institution or organization. This is a great high-level definition of culture, but we like to take it even further. Culture is your company energy. It is the bond that is holding it all together. Again, keeping in mind the idea of driving your culture into the prosperity zone. Optimizing your culture elevates your ability to retain employees, attract new ones, attract new customers, gain and maintain your brand recognition, and maintain your customer loyalty. Thriving in that zone by optimizing your culture means that you are seeing increased revenue, better strategic partnerships, and innovation within your industry. Where are some places that we should be looking for signs and symptoms of culture issues in your organization? We're going to take a look at things from the employee perspective, the customer perspective, and the leadership perspective. After each area, there will be a poll where you will be asked to rate how well you believe your company is doing in each of these areas. Your answers will be anonymous to the group, so please feel free to answer honestly. And we really use this information to help us better understand specific areas that companies have opportunities in that allows us to continue learning and creating valuable content for you. So please take a moment to do that when the opportunity comes. So let's start with employee perspective. Remember, money might get people through the door, but culture keeps them. You hear it all the time. People don't quit a company, they quit a manager. But maybe put in a different way, a lot of employees quit a culture. Employees want to be valued and heard. If they begin to feel that they are not valued and heard, they become more disengaged in their work. So some symptoms to be on the watch out for are employees feel their supervisor or executive leadership team does not understand them. This could be generational gaps, gender gaps, or working styles, for example. Whatever the reason is, employees feel a disconnect between themselves and their manager or team. Employees feel like their work-life balance is not being valued by the company or its leaders. You may have some employees experiencing a mindset has shifted to identity-based thinking instead of what we could call a commitment-based thinking. This would be attitudes that look like or say, instead of saying partnership within my organization is a must, they may feel like partnership within my organization is optional. Or they may start really keeping score with their colleagues. You might hear things like, I am being asked to do way more than others. They really start to internalize their feelings. Or you may see employees do not feel like it's worth speaking up because company leaders don't care. They feel like, well, even leaders know this information, but they're not going to do anything about it. Employees are not clear on the time and place to present barriers for escalation. They don't know, even if they wanted to speak up, they don't know where and when they can. There's no organization around constructive feedback. And then you may see there's just tension amongst your team in all activities, from the detailed activities where you would expect it to the very small activities where you wouldn't expect it. There's just always tension lying there. So Rob's going to bring up the poll now that we've reviewed some of those symptoms of culture issues in an organization from an employee perspective. So please take a look at that poll coming up on your screen now and give the employee culture a rating for your organization. How you're going to rate it is 1 being non-existent, meaning your culture in this area is really, really struggling to the point that there really is not one. Or you can rate it a 6, being that you are thriving in the prosperity zone. It is just in a magical place, your culture with your employees. So we'll give that a minute. All right, did everyone have a chance to answer? Now we're going to dig into the customer. So, signs you may be having some culture issues around your customer or from your customer's perspective. Having a lack of clear, clean, and concise processes and procedures in your organization is often what is seen first by the customer. These processes and procedures are usually developed to deliver a customer experience, whether it is through how they start their customer or client engagement with you to how they receive their goods and services. Also, your customer may experience inconsistencies on their customer service experience. They may get stellar service in one interaction, and then when they come back, it's not great at all, and it leaves them feeling very confused. Or the customer might get great service from the sales and then poor delivery on the execution end of the product or process, or vice versa. You might start to see more poor reviews online or in your customer feedback surveys. And one of the most tragic, your customer either overhears an employee complaining about the company, or the employee complains directly to the customer about the company or the company's procedures. It's really hard to talk culture without referencing Chick-fil-A. I know sometimes people are like, oh, Chick-fil-A, but they do such an amazing job setting the culture of their organization. It's such a good example to keep in mind. Imagine your experience without their attention to detail in customer experience arena. We are not deterred by their long lines because we know they're going to be fast. There were countless memes during COVID about Chick-fil-A needing to run the testing lines during the pandemic or the vaccination centers because they are so good. We are correlating the process and procedure management of a fast food company to the efficacy of a medical need. That is exceptional culture management. So, time for our next poll. As we think about this, rate your customer culture in your organization, either as 1 being non-existent, 6 being that it is thriving in the prosperity zone. So take a minute and give us your rating there. All right, did everyone get a chance to answer? Okay. So lastly, from the symptom perspective, let's take a look at leadership. And I will tell you, when going through these, it can be a very tough pill to swallow, especially as an owner or a leader within the organization. But we do believe that a majority of leaders and executives do in fact care a great deal about the experience of their team and their customers, yet they tend to at times be further removed from this reality as they manage the varying aspects of the business. So from a leadership perspective, you may see that your team is constantly bickering with each other, or they're having disagreements or tension between departments. Or you may find that it's really hard to rally the troops around a shared vision or goal. You get a lot of resistance when you're talking about that. You could also see some inconsistency between managers. You may have some managers that are holding their teams more accountable than others, or maybe there are some managers that are able to retain members on their team better than others. There could also be some high turnover in your organization as a whole. You may find that your innovation is slowing. Maybe you were once seen as the leader in a certain area, and that is no longer the case. Or look to your revenue. Is it declining or stagnating? That can be a sign as well. This is your reminder that culture needs to move up on the priority list. You can save yourself a lot of heartache by taking time to assess yourself, your business, and these key points. And remember, it can be turned around. So from the symptoms perspective, here's our last poll on that, and that's the leadership. So how would you rate yourself on this front? Again, 1 being non-existent, 6 being thriving in that prosperity zone. So we'll take a moment and let you make your selection there. Okay, everybody have a chance? Everybody good? Okay. So now that we've assessed your business from the perspective of the employee, the customer, and your leadership, now what? Here at Ferguson Alliance, we consider these to be the 5 elements and pillars for any organization for a solid company culture of excellence. We look at the customer orientation, the employee orientation. There needs to be clear performance standards, commitment to change, and then strong process orientation. And we're going to break down what each of these mean with the goal of getting you to a place where you can identify what gaps exist in your organization and where your energy would best be focused first. So let's take a look at customer orientation, our first element. Think about these things. So, does your team understand the value of the customer? Do they really know and respect the value that the customer brings to the business? Do you also think about and place emphasis on the long-term value of a customer to the business? Building strategic partnerships with your customers can really make a huge impact for your business long-term. Do you feel like you have a clear picture of how your customers rate their business experience with you? Are you performing routine customer feedback surveys or providing them ample opportunities to give you feedback? And then how often are you discussing the customer when making changes to your processes? When are you thinking about innovation in your organization? How often is the customer perspective a part of that discussion? Remember, the right customer is willing to pay more for peace of mind. We can at times really find ourselves trapped in thinking about innovation from a cost-cutting point of view, that we compromise the value or experience for the customer. And sometimes cutting one area to save and compromise in another is not a winning strategy. So when trying to think about your customer with your culture, think about why they buy from you. Your product may be unique now, but often it will be replicated by a competitor. Think now about how to differentiate your service. Competition can steal your product, but they can't take your culture. Build a customer-oriented culture that is strong and robust. Now let's talk the employee orientation, also known as your internal customers. How well is the organization working to make sure that the team members feel purposeful, heard, and understood? Just like your customers, are you doing routine employee surveys? Do you have opportunities for employees to get feedback on their performance? And how well are they oriented around the vision, mission, and values of your organization? Is this top of mind within your organization, or do you discuss it once a year, once every couple of years, never? Your vision, mission, and values is your culture on paper. These are the elements of your being. If someone were to summarize your company behavior and elements, it should look a lot like your mission, vision, and values. So think about it. Is this true for your company? And then do you have the right people in the right places to maximize team effectiveness? Thankfully, people are very different. Do you know what makes your team members unique? Do you know what situations they thrive in? And do you work to make sure they're placed in those roles? This can be challenging, but very important. The third element is clear performance standards. Does your organization provide clear expectations and hold true to their expectations? If you're familiar with Brené Brown, she's a researcher and an author. She once spoke about how she makes sure that her team knows what done looks like. She sets clear expectations of what she envisions in her mind, how the finished project or product looks, and then she allows the team to tackle it. Is this true for your organization, or are the details less clear? And then when employees execute, are they left confused because it was not done to an expectation that was never communicated? Do people know exactly what would happen if the ball was dropped? Are these consequences applied fairly and routinely? The flip side to that, are they also clear on incentives for achieving those goals? Or is the goal moved once it's achieved, but never celebrated, then creating discouragement within the team? Are your progress results communicated routinely? Are you remembering to communicate with all the members within the organization? Admittedly, when I worked in my family business, there were 2 locations, and it never failed, I would at times not be thinking about communicating or coordinating with the location that I did not office at. It was never intentional on my part, but I know that did make them feel less seen and appreciated, and that can really be discouraging. So always remember to consider the organization as a whole. And then also think about this. Does your team trust that you are going to do what you say you're going to do? That is, are you going to walk the walk and not just talk the talk? This one is a tough one. This one's hard. This one's hard for everybody, professionally, personally, all the things. How well is your organization committed to change? We hear it all the time. The only thing that never changes is that everything changes. How well are you subscribing to this? Are you acknowledging that it is much easier to have a continual improvement and change process in your organization rather than large and involved change initiatives? Does your organization cringe at the word change, or is it celebrated and encouraged? What would your organization look and feel like if you were to make a purposeful effort to incorporate conversations around change? Maybe try this out. So the next time you're discussing something with your team and the results are going well, stretch yourself and say, hey, that sounds great. I'm glad this is working out. Now let's work a muscle we have not regularly worked out. Let's think about the same situation we have, but we have to do it differently than we are doing it right now. I'm not saying that we're going to change it, but I just want us as a group to think about a different way to do it. So you're going to propose that to your group, and then I want you to see what happens. You will likely see some people light up because they have been thinking for months about how to do it differently. Some people are going to get frustrated and see this as a total waste of time. Some people are not going to say anything. But what you're doing is you are working your change muscle. When a doctor diagnoses you with high blood pressure, you don't get to eat one meal, do one workout, and then be done with it. You have to do those things continually over time to make a change. And when change, it's no different. Change is a muscle that needs to be continually worked out and toned in your organization. And lastly, how strong is your process orientation? Processes set clear expectations for the team. How well is your organization relying on these processes to accomplish goals? There is a fine line between flexibility and structure that must be acknowledged here. Processes are something that you really want to pair with your change muscle. You should always be open to evaluation as to not close off a customer or an employee or supplier in your quest to be process oriented. So are yours clear and stored where people in the organization can access them? Do they know who to ask about them? Does the team know the proper places and spaces to propose change to your processes? And if they do they feel comfortable in doing so? Are you having routine discussions with your team members, and do they know how the meetings or discussions are going to take place, the times, and how to improve them? Are you getting oriented around your processes, and do your employees know it? So it's now going to be time for our last poll of this, where I want you to, what element do you feel your organization needs the most work in? So if you could only pick one of these that you want to tackle right now, which one would you pick? Customer, employee, standards, change, processes. That box should be popping up now, and you can log your response. I'll give you just a few more seconds. Okay. So we've examined the symptoms. We've looked at what makes a strong culture and like, what does all of this mean? It's really crucial to really drive home why this is so important. As owners or leaders within an organization, you have to move between many initiatives. So this is what we call our alignment triangle. A visual representation of the work a business is doing a lot of times on a daily basis. It's a lot. In the current area, the 1 year area, you're focusing on the key result areas of the organization, the annual budget, plans, and goals. In the 3 to 5 year area, you're working on the goals, the strategic intent, and the mission of the organization. In the 10 plus outlook, you're looking at values and the purpose and vision of the organization. Obviously, it can feel like a lot of days call for a predominant amount of work in that 1 to 5 year range. And as a business owner or leader, you're juggling several things. This is a lot of areas to be working all at one time. You need people to get these things done. Remember back to the beginning when we define culture as the set of shared attitudes, values, goals, and practices that characterize an institution or organization, and then the energy and the bond. Your culture is crucial to getting these things done well. So you want to be the energy and the bond that your organization needs to accomplish great things. Help everyone in your organization realize that they too can be the energy and the bond. It certainly needs to start at the top, but everyone has the opportunity to do it well. So all of that, and you're probably feeling a little overwhelmed. And then you're like, well, what do I do now? So here are some tips for improvement. Pay attention to recurring themes. When we break down the symptoms of a poor culture and the elements of a culture of excellence, the same concepts keep coming up. They are that you have to be honest with yourself and your situation in order to make good choices to change. You have to communicate. Communicate, communicate. You can't say it enough. You have to communicate to your organization and your customers, and you have to be open to getting that communication back. You also have to create the opportunities for that communication to take place. Surveys, meetings, encourage all of your employees to ask the customer questions. You have to be as clear as you can. Being too ambiguous can lead to nothing getting done and nothing changing. Ask your team how clear they are on what you are discussing. You'll be able to tell if they feel confident in that clarity. And if you don't feel like they feel confident, keep going until you do. Make a commitment to your culture. This is not something you can do a workshop for in 3 days, put it on a shelf until next year. Your culture is living, just like yogurt, every day, whether you acknowledge it or not. Are you going to tone that muscle or are you going to let it go? Then seek outside perspectives, and this one is critical. Outside perspectives are not clouded by the daily operational situations that occur. The passions that live there can cloud your judgment. The longer that you have been in your industry, the more stuck you can tend to feel. You have that been there, done that attitude at times. And outside perspectives help you learn the things you didn't know that you didn't know. You want to utilize advisors, board of directors, feedback from past customers or clients, and even employees. Having the assessments performed on your business, whether it is for marketing, financial, customer feedback, or doing employee assessments to make sure that you have the right people on the right teams working in the right direction, can be very eye-opening for your business. And Ferguson Alliance provides business assessments, behavioral assessments for your team, and we would be happy to help. And then lastly, this is your deep breath. Understand that this takes time. And that just because a declaration is made that culture is a priority to improve, your team is not going to be fully behind it until they see actions matching the words. People need time to see change and build trust. This is a big undertaking. Give yourself grace. If you are open to acknowledging this is work that needs to be done in your organization, in a lot of ways, you have tackled the hardest part. Remember, we are here for you and we understand the challenges that this brings. So please, if you're feeling stuck, always reach out to us. So let's open up the chat and see what kind of questions we have, if there are any, or comments that people would like to share with everyone. This is always a fun time.
Randy, I don't see any questions at this time.
All right, that's no problem. Well, again, if you would like some help making changes in your business culture, or if you just have questions around this, whatever it may be, please feel free to reach out and connect with us. You can book a call with myself or one of our advisors to discuss your situation, request more information or an information kit. Certainly today's webinar was a high-level overview. You may find that you have half of these well-tuned but are stuck on others, whatever it may be. We're happy to explore that with you. You can call us, visit our website, shoot us an email. Our contact info is here on the screen. I would also just love for you to email me any culture tips, tricks, stories, questions, whatever you may have. We are always on the quest to learn more. We've certainly seen many things over our careers, but we can't see it all. And so adding to that vault of knowledge is always crucial for us to deliver great results for our clients. So keep that in mind as well. We love hearing that. And then I just, again, want to thank you all for being here with us today and spending part of your afternoon with us. We really do appreciate having you here. We're going to be doing free webinars routinely twice a month, so stay connected with us on LinkedIn and our soon-to-come Facebook and Instagram. And then we'll also have a sign-up on our website for our email. You can stay in contact with us at all times, get updates on everything that we have going on at Ferguson Alliance, and we will make sure to connect with you. So thank you again so much, everyone.